Welcome to the Humans of Hospitality podcast. I know so many of you listening to this show love your local bar, your local restaurant, maybe your local hotel, and have so many fond memories of time in hospitality businesses. This is the podcast where we get to chat to the human beings behind the scenes of that industry. Maybe the chefs or the bakers or the coffee roasters or the gin distillers or the craft brewers or the entrepreneurs, but all doing an amazing job of making sure that hospitality stays interesting and the big, dull, formulaic brands do not take over our high street. Please enjoy the show. In this week's episode, we are chatting to Michael Bremner, founder and owner of both 64 Degrees and Murmur Restaurants. And you may well know this week's guest from the BBC's Great British Menu programme. In 2016, he did pretty well, getting to the finals, and a year later, he went one better, winning the entire competition and the chance to prepare a banquet for Wimbledon Tennis Club. But actually, Michael Bremner wasn't a stranger to preparing great food under the watchful gaze of the people just about to eat it. When he opened his first restaurant, 64 Degrees, in Brighton in 2013, he designed the restaurant so diners were just an arm's stretch away from the chefs. They could see the dishes coming together right in front of them. And the same early design also forgot about a bar, and you'll hear how that turned out later. In the next hour, you'll also discover how avoiding food envy has shaped Michael's award-winning menu, and how he and his partner Carla, who gets legendary status in this edition, had the wherewithal to open a second, very different restaurant only months after his marathon at Great British Menu. I very much hope you enjoy this week's conversation. Michael Bremner, thank you so much for joining me on the podcast. Much appreciated.
It's a pleasure.
Can you just explain where in the world we are? Because people will be hearing maybe some odd background noises. Where are we on planet Earth, Michael?
We are directly on Brighton Beach, just straight across from the West Pier, next to the I-360.
Excellent. And it's due to be the hottest day of the year this year, isn't it?
It's due to be the hottest day of the year, yeah. Can't wait.
Yeah.
Well, I'm saying that from a pasty Scotsman. I'll be sitting inside in the shade.
Yeah. I read yesterday, actually, that somewhere was going to close their kitchen because it was going to reach 38 degrees. But you've got a nice sea breeze coming in here onto the pass, haven't you? So I think you'll be all right.
It's going to be good. Although I hear that trains have been cancelled because of the heat.
That's true. Yeah.
It might not be as busy.
No. We will see. Okay, so anyway, nice part of the world. Thanks for sparing my time. We're going to come to what you do now and all about Murmur and your other restaurant, but I want to go back in time a little bit to start with, if you don't mind. Can you just explain, how did you get into this industry? I understand your mum was a chef, is that right?
My mum was a chef, yeah, that's right. To be honest, food's always been in my life. I'm not really from that kind of background where there was always fresh bread being made in the morning and all that sort of stuff. I come from a very typical sort of Scottish upbringing, if you like, where we spent a lot of time outside and that sort of stuff. But my mum was a qualified chef. And when it was Christmas or that sort of times, I always spent time, I was kind of a mummy's boy, I suppose, at the end of the day. I kind of spent a lot of time in the kitchen with my mum when she was making stuff for Christmas dinner, or my mum made everything home cooked. I remember being like a special treat back then would have been like a boil in the bag, bird's eye. There was this chicken supreme thing, and it was basically chicken in a white sauce with rice, and I absolutely loved it. It was like a boil in the bag thing, and my mum used to get that for me as like a special occasion treat thing,
rather than her cooking you.
Rather than her cooking, yeah. So, yeah, I remember one time my mum, she had a tomato, and she made one point in time in my life that I will never forget is when my mum made this tomato into a rose. Have you ever seen that? When you take the skin off, and then very old, but at the time I must have been like 8 or something. I remember looking at it and thinking, "That's amazing." And just the thought of, and then I did home economics at school with the cooking side of things. I absolutely loved. And then an opportunity came up. My mum was worked on breakfast she was at the front of the house at a country house hotel about 7 miles away from my hometown. And she got me a job working there, washing dishes and general sort of veg prep. And then the head chef gave me a job as an apprentice. And then I moved out of my home and lived which was amazing. I was 16 years old and I lived on my own on this estate. And I just worked extremely hard, and the first 2 years were pretty tough, you know, as anyone has in that sort of kitchen environment. The chef that trained me, he was like 5'2", maybe he was a tiny guy compared to me being 6'4", and he had his name's Bob, and he was just terrifying.
Really?
like to be brutally honest, he was terrifying. Like for me being a 16-year-old lad, he was extremely passionate. I mean, he's a man. I think he was way before his time. You know, he did all the gardening in the estate. He knew all about, like, we used to pick fruit and veg from the estate and things. And it was a really great place to work.
Was he more terrifying than Marco Pierre White? Because you worked with him as well, didn't you? He looks like a scary guy, but.
Well, I worked for Marco Pierre White. Yeah, he never really was in the kitchen. He might have been in there 3 or 4 times whilst I was there, but. It was more, that was Curtis Stone and Charlie Rushton that were the guys that were running the kitchen then.
Fine. So this guy was more terrifying.
I would have said he was more terrifying than
even at 5'2".
Yeah, he was just a beast, you know, and he was extreme. He kind of spoke with a Geordie accent, you know. He was very. When you heard him, you just stopped. You know, you're terrified.
Wow. I can see it's bringing back memories as you speak.
Yeah, but now, I mean, I worked with him for 5 years. First 2 years were terrifying. And then after that, we kind of became really good friends. And now, I mean, I very much seen him as a father figure, to be honest. And now, I could still call him today and ask him sort of a question if I had any problems. And he would still be very much a man that I would contact if I needed to.
Is he still chefing? Or?
Yeah, he is. Yeah.
Excellent. Okay, great. So was that excuse the pronunciation, Pittodrie House, is it? Is that right?
Pittodrie House, yeah.
Is that where you were?
Outside Aberdeen.
Okay, fine. So you did that and then passed your apprenticeship and ended up moving to London, is that right?
Well, yeah, it was a funny story there. It came to a stage of where my head chef said to me, I'd kind of been there long enough, essentially. I don't think he thought he could teach me anymore. Right. There was nowhere to get promotion to because people then stayed for a very long time. So my next step I was chef de partie, so I couldn't have got to sous chef because there was already sous chefs and so on and so forth. So my head chef, there was a Michelin convention or something at the restaurant, and my head chef met Chris Galvin, and he asked him if I could go down to London and do a trial or something along that lines. He basically tried to get me a job in London, which I went down for. But whilst I was down there, I felt it would be important at my age. You know, I was 20 years old. I thought I'm going to try and do one of the. I googled, or not googled, but I seen another job for a chef in Ibiza, and I thought that could be the one for me. So I went for this job interview, and it was amazing. You know, the both of them I really enjoyed. The Michelin-starred orrery, which was Chris Galvin was at the time. I absolutely loved that. I was in pastry section. It was very cool, and it was things I'd never seen. You know, coming from the country house hotel, sort of. You know, I lived in the hills of Scotland. You know, and going to London itself was the first time I'd ever been there, let alone working in that sort of condition. It totally blew my mind. But then I went for an interview for the Ibiza job, and I came back to my head chef and I said, he was like, how'd it go? And I went, I've kind of thought about it, and I'm going to take the job in Ibiza, and I'm going to go and sort of live the life for a little bit. And
was that for the food or the beach clad kind of?
For whatever, you know, just to have a bit of fun. And he said, basically, no, you're not. I've already told the guys that you're accepting the job at the Orrery. So, I went and worked in London for 3 years.
Wow. Did you try and argue that, or you just was another scary chef?
There's no point in arguing.
Great. Okay.
Yeah, but you know, I'm here. I am in the position I am today because of Bob Ovington. So you know, I've got a lot of appreciation for that guy.
So that stint in London, you ended up working at a few, you know, really high class restaurants.
I worked for Chris Galvin at the Orrery. I worked for. From there, I went to work in a restaurant called Seven, which was above a nightclub called Home. Richard Turner, who's now, I believe he does like Hawksmoor and all that sort of thing. Yeah. He was the head chef there. He was great to work under. Again, I worked in pastry section. And then from there, I went to work at Quo Vadis, which was Marco Pierre White and Curtis Stone. Charlie Rushton were the guys there. Again, the pastry section, which I loved. And from there, because I'd felt like I'd kind of done a bit of a London circuit, I wanted to go traveling.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of people that had been to Australia. So yeah, I packed my bags and went to Australia.
Which is unusual, I think, because I've interviewed a few chefs who've ended up in London, Alex Aitken, William Curley, James Golding, a few, and once they're on that kind of treadmill and got that trajectory, they ended up sort of getting into it for years, I suppose, and moving up. It's quite unusual. Chefs have a reputation, I think, of getting buried in kitchens and not seeing daylight for a decade and then coming out incredible. But what was your motivation then to sort of put your head above the parapet and actually get out?
I suppose it was kind of like, when I went to London, I remember thinking, just the sheer amount of people and the fact that, without being, I don't mean this in a negative way, but people like walk around like zombies, and you think, Christ, it was such an amazing, like being from the hills of Scotland, it was amazing seeing this, how it all worked. It got rammed into the tube, everyone comes out, and then I absolutely loved it when I first got there, the sort of hustle and bustle. But then I suppose after 3 years or 3.5 years, how long I was there for, I just kind of woke up one day and I thought, I was one of them zombies, and I just thought it's time for me to move on. And, I've always wanted to be, one reason I got into cooking as well, once I started cooking, everyone said to me, you'll be able to travel. It's one thing you will definitely be able to do. You can get a job anywhere in the world. So yeah, I was kind of 23, 24, something like that when I went to Australia.
Okay. And you knew you were going to go to Oz and carry on chefing. Was part of the motivation to learn some different cuisine, I suppose? And did you? Was it very different in Australia than London?
It was different, but I definitely went over there for enjoying myself. I didn't really go over there to have to do 18 hours a day in the kitchen.
Good.
So I worked in a backpackers for 3 months, which was great.
In the kitchen?
In the kitchen.
They must have been pretty happy to get somebody of your credibility. Backpackers, beans on toast isn't always that
it was
amazing.
Like flipping burgers and stuff, but it was great. The money was great, and yeah, it was really good. I really enjoyed it. The sort of the banter with the team, and it was something totally different I've never done before as well. So I kind of really enjoyed that. It's not something I'd kind of do full time, but it was an experience, and I got to stay in the resort for free and all that sort of stuff. So it had a lot of benefits. And then I also worked in a cafe that was cafe during the day. They did like breakfast and stuff, and then it would close for nighttime, and then it would turn into like a fine dining restaurant at nighttime. And I really enjoyed it there. I was there for 6 months, even though I shouldn't have been. I think I work at one place for 3 months, but I kind of left to go and do Uluru and all that sort of thing, and then came back again. And they were willing to sponsor me and all sorts, so I could have stayed out there. But I ended up not doing that. I wanted to travel a bit more. I did Thailand whilst we were going out there. And I came back and did Thailand again.
Were you cooking in Thailand?
No,
just traveling.
Yeah.
Okay. I always thought, I travelled in Australia for a while, and I always thought some of the best Asian food I ever had. I travelled in Asia itself for about 9 months through Thailand and Indonesia and Tibet and all sorts of places. But what I found in Australia is that they had the influence of Asia, but with much better ingredients. Rather than just sort of chicken bones, they actually had chicken with flesh on, and actually the vegetables they were just better at farming, I suppose, where Asia was very poor. So did you pick up some different skills, do you think, from that side of the world, or different dishes?
Do you know what? I'm not sure. I learned how to cook rice whilst I was over there.
Okay, that's important.
That's something that stuck with me forever.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I think with my food, with the way that I cook and stuff, it's hard for me to say like what really influenced me. I know Bob definitely influenced me. He was very much the kind of person that would tell me how to cook, like not necessarily following a recipe, but just to like have an understanding and cook from the soul. Yeah. And he was very much that kind of chef that would then constantly taste, constantly touch. He was very much about using all your senses. He like sight, smell, hearing. He would put a piece of fish in, and he would like say to me, "Can you hear that?" And like you'd hear it like sizzling, and he was like, "That's what you want it to be." And
amazing.
Like he was very, very, he was extremely great person to work with.
Yeah. Okay, so you're away for a while. 2003, back to the UK, but you don't go back to Scotland or London. You end up in Brighton. Why?
Yeah. So whilst I was in London, I didn't work many weekends really. So I used to come down to Brighton for weekends here and there. It was great, a great night out in Brighton. And I just thought it was such a lovely place, and it was quite different near the beach. which I always quite like. Being from the northeast of Scotland, I've always kind of liked being near the water. So it's just a natural. I sent my CV out to a few places, and it was quite a natural direction for me. So a restaurant down at the marina, which was quite new. Whilst I was actually away in Australia as well, I actually cooked. Whereas previous to that, I'd trained as a chef, obviously, to a chef de partie level, and I knew how to cook. But whilst I was in London, I only did pastry. So I was very much focused on being a pastry chef, which I sort of studied for 7-ish years. But then once I'd done the whole working at Quo Vadis and that sort of thing, I kind of wanted to change my direction a little bit. So still have the ability to cook pastry and do that sort of thing, but then focus on the food side of things, or actual cooking. So whilst I was in Australia, I mainly focused on doing cooking only.
Yeah. Do you have a preference now?
That's a tough one. I don't know, actually. I'm probably not as good at pastry as I
Because they're quite different disciplines, aren't they? Pastry is so almost the chemistry, the science, the finesse. I think a little bit more cook by recipe. Still need a bit of soul, but I think you can release that kind of creative soul. I feel I'm not a trained chef, but a little bit more in the rest of the kitchen, because it's just less scientific.
Yeah, I just what I really enjoy is just I just really enjoy cooking, and it doesn't matter what it is, as long as I don't necessarily need to think. What I enjoy doing is cooking something to the best of my ability, rather than thinking about, how long this takes, how long that takes. Well, it's what I enjoy doing now. Is just go in the kitchen and I'll do a section, and I love going into Mama here and just cooking get one of the chefs to do the pass, and I'll just cook, and then they tell me what they need, and I'll just get it done and pass it over to them. And I really, really enjoy that side of things.
Yeah, nice.
It's my sort of day off doing that.
Exactly.
It just gives me a bit of. When I was doing certain other things in the past as well, to relieve stress, or to relieve if I had too much going on in my mind, I would just go 64 degrees. And the head chef at the time, Sam Lambert, I used to say to him, "Listen, I'll cook, you do the pass," and I just not think about anything.
Perfect.
And I would just cook all day and not have to worry about financials and staff problems and whatever else.
Yeah.
Just did it
completely in the zone.
Yeah, and
Nothing
I
else
love
to
that.
think about.
It's my happy place.
Yeah, you still get to do it.
I still get to do it every now and again.
That's the release. Yeah. There was another guy you worked with, Steve Dre at the Seattle, who you've sort of said a number of times is a legend and in another league. What was it about him that particularly impressed you?
He was great. Yeah, he was a man. He was a very funny man. He was a man that he knew how to clean a kitchen.
Really?
Yeah, I have never seen anyone clean or have the team clean a kitchen like that. I've obviously worked in clean kitchens, but this was a different level.
Really?
It was intense.
Okay.
And we used to, on a Saturday night, we used to do a deep clean on a Saturday night after service. We might not get out until 2:30 in the morning. It would just be a solid, an epic clean. Every Thursday we used to do, we called it Boys in the Hood. All the lads would get up and do the canopy. So they do that on Thursday, and then they do it again on Saturday night. The cleaning schedule was extremely impressive, and that's something that I think I've taken.
How do you convince a brigade of chefs on a Saturday night, the busiest night of the week, when you've just had an absolute arse kicking in the kitchen, and you want to spend another 2.5 hours after service cleaning a kitchen?
You didn't really have an option. Steve wasn't the kind of man that you would.
I'm just clearly not strict enough with my team. I feel so bad. I would just go in and give them gratitude on a Saturday night and go, boys, can I get you a beer? But,
no, that wasn't what he was like. He was more. If you didn't do it, you just find someone that would. He was very. God, he must have gone through hundreds of chefs. I was a sous chef there for 3 years, and worked under him for 2 of those years, I think. And he was good.
Yeah.
He was very, very straight down the line. He didn't. There was no bells and whistles. There was no sort of fluff. You didn't have to think in your mind, does he like that or does he not like that? You knew he liked it or he didn't like it. And
so kitchens had that reputation for years as being very disciplined, very strict, often quite angry environments.
Yeah.
Maybe to the detriment of new people coming through. Do you think that's changed in the last few years?
Massively, yeah. I mean, I've had some of the best times in my life in the kitchen. I've also had some horrendous times in my life in the kitchen. You know, I have been in those kitchens that are aggressive, or you see people getting heart beaten. I've had stitches in my face. You know, there's definitely a negative side to what food used to be. And at the end of the day, as much as I get that, and I get I used to justify it in my mind for how people would behave, to thinking, well, they're just extremely passionate about their job. But that doesn't excuse the fact of hearting someone, you know, or being, you know, in that sort of just unnecessarily making someone's day miserable. I just don't understand that. I mean, now both my teams, I very much try and encourage them. I mean, I'm not saying I don't lose my temper. I lose my temper. I'll shout at people. But once I do, that's it. It's done. You know, I don't hold a grudge. It's very much for the moment. And I think food is it's not that important. You know, like, as much as I love what I do, I'm not saving someone's life. You know, I'm not doing something. I'm cooking something for someone, and not everyone's going to love it. And I get that. So I'm not going to treat my staff with, you know, extremely negatively to try and make them cook better for people. You know, I try and encourage them to cook better. I always go in the kitchens and I always have a bit of banter with the lads when I'm cooking. And if I cook a piece of fish or something like that, something that I do, and I always do it, and it's kind of like, I think it was funny, and then it went to being not funny, and then now it's gone back to being funny again. You know, I've gone with it for so long, it's kind of done that. And I'll cook a piece of fish. I did it the other day, and I'll put it on a tray to go up to the pass. And I'll just get all the lads round and I'll say, guys, can you all come over here, please? And everyone will come over and I'll just give everyone a big hug and we'll just look at it and I'll be like, see that, lads, see that? And everyone's sort of like busy, you know, we're doing like 80 covers and I'll pull everyone over. I'll just be like, see, lads, I can still cook, blah, blah. And then they all kind of go back and it just adds a bit of fun, you know, kind of. I try to get everyone excited about what they do and showing them, you know, it should be fun. What we're doing should be fun. And I think if you've got a smile on your face, it reflects in the food that you're doing.
I think there's often an irony in when you work behind the scenes in hospitality that front of house is all about fun. It's birthdays, it's anniversaries, it's special occasions, it's time with family, and it needs to feel like a happy, encouraging place. And then in the kitchen, and similarly, I probably used to justify a very different management style to some of my head chefs, which would be much more military driven in the kitchen. And I thought that clash of cultures from the past, where your waitress has come up to the pass and she's kind of just sung happy birthday to somebody and blown out some candles, and then meets head chef on the pass who's like, you know, get that effing souffle out in the next 90 seconds or it's going to drop. And it's a really difficult, you know, to have a business with two such a sort of opposing management styles is a real challenge, I think.
I really try and deter that. I don't really treat us as front of house and back of house, you know. I treat us as one team. And I really encourage everyone to treat people like that, you know. And I think from the KP to the general manager, I don't treat anyone any differently. You know, I treat everyone with exactly the same respect. And hopefully they'll treat me with the same respect as well, you know. And I think I have a good balance of having the ability to have a laugh with everyone, but at the same time, when I need stuff done, it gets done. You know, and I think it's an important balance to have. I think, especially as a head chef or above, is to be able to, you know, comfort people, but at the same time, have that sense of urgency that people understand that okay, now it's time to do our job and not always have a laugh.
Yeah. Yeah, I hope it's changing enough that we get another wave of people coming into the industry, because I think it did put people off for a while. There were some horror stories of violent kitchens.
Yeah, I mean, people like, you know, Gordon Ramsay's one of my favourite chefs. You know, as far as, and not only the fact he's Scottish, you know, he's a legend as well. Probably one of the best chefs, in my opinion, best chef ever. But the way that he comes across with the swearing and the shouting and all these sorts of things, I think can put people off. You know, and I think there has been a point in time where there was a certain generation that came into kitchens. I've seen it, you know, where people get hurt, shouted at, crying, bullied. You know, it certainly wasn't or has been moments of not being fun in the kitchen. And if you're working 16, 18 hours a day, or the last thing you want to be doing really is hating, you know, 15 of those hours. You know what I mean? And I think people that have then left the industry told their friends, children, whoever else, and everyone else is like, I'm not doing that. You know, when you can go and, I don't know, there's a million other easier jobs getting paid probably more than what you would do being a chef. There needs to be encouragement for people to be coming into kitchens. And, you know, now is the time to try and embrace that for young people, because there's definitely a shortage of chefs out there. And you don't do as many hours now. You know, what do you do now? Like 40, 50-ish hours you do nowadays compared to 90 plus. And it's a lot of fun. I mean, my guys here, it's a weird time as well, right? I mean, when I was a lad, back in my day, you know, you do your 12, you do your shift, finish it whatever time after clean the kitchen till 2 a.m, whatever, and then you would end up going out for a few beers, you know, and then you would do the whole thing again, and it was almost built in to play hard and work hard, you know, and that kind of lifestyle. Whereas now, God, about 80% of my chefs all go to the gym, you know, they finish at night and you'd be like, oh, I don't drink that much, but I would expect someone to say, should we go out for a few beers? And then you hear someone saying, oh no, I've got the gym at 7 a.m. And you think, what?
It's interesting, isn't it? It's because everybody's got to look good on Instagram. I think that's what it is. They're worried about that, what they're going to look like when they have their morning coffee.
I definitely think there's a positive and a negative to this, but I think chefs are coming into it where they're coming in believing about, you know, your fluid gels and your blah blahs and making things, your sous vide cooking and the creative stuff. And that's what chefs are coming in to learn. Whereas not all of them have the ability to do the basics. And I think you still need to know the basics before you can start doing all the jazzy stuff that everyone's quite excited about. So I try and, it's hard because you want to keep people engaged and excited about their job. But at the same time, they need to understand how to make a stock, or, you know, how to cut vegetables, or whatever it is, and not just go straight to the funk, you know, just straight to happy time.
Yeah, we seem to be missing out on that classic training. How much of that do you think comes this kind of huge growth in the last decade of the casual dining sector, where it's, you know, it's much more relaxed style of food and doesn't have that history and that classic? Do you think it's because that's the kind of food they're going out and eating, and they just don't have that kind of classic French style cuisine history we used to see? And
that's a good question. I think just with the variety of produce that you can get now, it's just increased everyone's enthusiasm to learn something next, you know? Like, I think French food is amazing, but it's not really my thing now. I probably haven't been to a French restaurant for the last 15 years. And I would have no interest really right now of going to a French restaurant because, you know, I was classically French and classically British trained. And I would be much more excited about going somewhere that's, I mean, I love an Indian restaurant. You know, there's one in town called Chili Pickle, which is way up there in my favorite restaurants. But, you know what I really like eating, actually, is things that I probably don't understand how they make it. So that's probably why Indian food interests me so much, because I'm not 100% sure about spices and all sorts of things. You know, I think it's not something that I've embraced. So, but yeah, I don't know about the craze of casual dining. I think that, you know, I think we've gone through a stage of where it's all this sort of tablecloths and all this. I've eaten in restaurants. Bear in mind, I've cooked for a long time, and I've eaten in restaurants that I have felt like the way that front of house have been towards guests is almost like we shouldn't be there. You know, like it's so la-di-da, and you think, this isn't what food's about, you know. No. This isn't what I think food's about. I go out, I ate in a restaurant I went to, my missus took me to New York for my 40th birthday, and I ate at 11 Madison Park, and I ate at Ko, which is Momofuku David Chang thing. And the 11 Madison Park was outstanding. I mean, it was the best, you know, it was incredible. The service was insane, the food was immaculate, it was such an incredible experience. But I enjoyed my meal at Ko better because it was just like, you know, they're all there with caps back to front, they're all like wafting a barbecue, the smoke's coming up. No one really everyone's attentive to talk to you, but no one's like cares that much, and everyone's sort of doing the dishes and chatting a bit of banter, and guys come over, filling up your drinks, and it was just such a cool flow, you know, it was such a nice the experience was just great, and the food was epic. And instead of sitting there in my suit and having that kind of like almost whispering to my other half about what, you know, and the experience was a lot more kind of chilled out.
Yeah.
And I loved that.
I think that hospitality should be, you know, when I train my team, it's all about how the person feels. Food and drink has got to be there, but fundamentally it's a feeling thing, and that's what we remember. If we feel relaxed and we can feel the energy in the room and the three-dimensional, the sound and the glasses clinking and people chatting and stuff. I don't know if that's where the name came from. Where does the name Murmur come from, by the way?
Murmur is based on, over the pier here, certain times of the year, there's starlings, and they fly between the two piers in the murmurations.
Yeah, gotcha.
So, Murmur.
Okay, not the background noise of a restaurant.
Not
I went off on a tangent then, which we've done a couple of times. So, but I'm just very quickly going to finish your trajectory, because you stayed here a while, popped off to Canada. What was the inspiration for Canada?
Canada is a place that I just always wanted to go to, and I wanted to learn how to snowboard.
I heard a little rumour it was mainly snowboarding. So again, good sign that you didn't just get obsessed by hot boxes without windows in kitchens and actually went off and saw the mountains.
I mean, I do believe that if you've got the ability to do something, you know, life's quite important, I think. And I really wanted to experience a few things. And I want my kids to experience a few things as well. You know, I'd really encourage them to go and do the similar thing that I've done. And not working in kitchens, of course, but more like travel the world and stuff. And the thing about Canada was, there's positive. You know, one thing I always say this to the people. It's probably the last thing I'm going to say today, but I'm going to say it. The thing about working in Canada is everyone's just too happy.
Really?
Oh, it's almost frustrating. It's like everyone is loving life, and you think, God, if you're having a bad day, you just want to be like, it's okay to have a bad day. Like everyone's just like, hey,
brilliant,
today's the day.
I've got family in Canada, and they're over for dinner tonight, so I'm actually meeting my Canadian relatives for dinner this evening. So I'm kind of dreading them still being in a good mood by 9 o'clock this evening. I'll have had a hard day's graft. So we'll see how they go. Okay, so you come back to Brighton, 2007, and this is when I suppose things get a little bit more serious. So what was the food scene like back then in Brighton, and where did you go?
Brighton was, I think Brighton's always been a party town. So people come here for stag do's, hen do's, clubbing, that sort of lifestyle, And it was, I think food was more seen about something to fill you, so you can enjoy your night out, and I genuinely believe that. There was a handful of great restaurants. You had there was one past in place. There was the Ginger Man, who's still going strong, and there was Sam's of Seven Dials, and there was a few others I can't quite remember off the top of my head. But there was about 5. And then I worked at a restaurant down here. So I'd come back from Canada. I'd heard about this restaurant. I got in contact with a guy, Rob. And I got a job working at Due South, which was just right on the seafront here. Not a million miles away from Marmor, actually. And I was there for 5 years. And I'll be honest, I absolutely loved it. It was an extremely hard job.
This was as head chef?
Yeah, well, I actually got the job as sous chef. Because there was plans to open a second restaurant for them. I believe it was down near the fish guys. But anyway, that didn't end up happening, and so the thought was that I would go in and do sous chef here, and then go and do head chef in the next place. But then whilst I was there, the head chef at the time left, and then I took over as head chef, and then. It was an eye-opening experience because, first of all, I feel like they were at the forefront of the whole sort of sustainable local thing. I'd never seen that before in all the places I worked at. It didn't matter if something was local or if it came from France or wherever. It was a product that it was a great quality product, but no one cared where it came from or what the season was about it. Whereas at Due South, it was only about 85% of the produce came within a 35-mile radius. And it was intense, it was hard. Because back then it wasn't like it is now where you got all your independent farms around. And I remember calling the greengrocer, our veg supplier, and saying to them, what's it growing at the moment? And the guy was like, grass is pretty much your only option. And I thought, like,
it's a limited menu.
It was, it wasn't easy, but you really had to think outside the box. And it really pushed me in my abilities and what I could do. And I absolutely loved it. I mean, it was hard, you know, down the beach, as you can imagine. Brighton Beach, it was, you know, you could have 20 people booked and do 100 plus, you know, it was challenging. Especially at the level of food that we were doing, you know, it was a great time though. And the guys that I worked with, it was there that I came up for the idea for 64 Degrees. It was there, myself and the manager from Marmar, our one who's here. We worked together there. My operations manager, actually, Jake, we worked together there.
Really?
And my other half, Carla, is where we worked together and met. So G-Side's got a massive part of my life.
Yeah, deep rooted in the DNA of what you do now then.
Yeah. It was one thing that I really wanted to do. I mean, they changed it to being Riddle and Fins, but it was one reason that I really wanted to have a restaurant down the beach was the sort of my experience down there was extremely positive, you know. It was an extremely, I loved my time there. And the guys that owned it were great to work with, and it was a good time of life.
And that was kind of trailblazing, putting Brighton on the map food-wise, I guess, was it? It was one of the, it had a really good reputation.
It had a really good
Brighton.
reputation, yeah.
People would travel to come to it.
It got national exposure. It was very good for, the local, sustainable, that sorts of things. Yeah, it was great.
Which has grown more and more. And then there was a little period, so while you were planning on opening your own restaurant, you ended up surrounded by vegetables at one point. Was that right? There was a...
Yeah, funnily enough, right, I read this article. I had plans for 64 Degrees, and I was opening restaurants, it takes an age. You know, I think it took me about 2 years to actually get the place open. But from actually having the idea to the doors opening was about 2 years. But before I did that, whilst I was trying to look for investment or that sorts of things, you know, I had found an article in the restaurant magazine, and I believe it was from, I want to say it was a chef called Nuno Mendes or something like that. One like him or someone of his sort of caliber, that had written an article. This would be years ago now, like 7 years ago, that said, the long and short of it was that meat was going to become too expensive and everyone's going to be eating vegetables in the future. And that 90% of chefs should be embarrassed of themselves because all they do is souffles and risottos. And I was that chef, you know. I was the guy who was doing souffles and risottos. Like vegetarian food, in my opinion back then was like, it was a back burner. It was like, let's focus on what's important, being meat and fish and those sorts of things. And then the vegetarians can basically get whatever's left. And it really hit home to me. That article was like, it's an important thing, you know, and I love vegetarian. I mean, I even enjoyed eating vegetarian food. I just don't know in my mind why I didn't ever give it the time of day. So there was a restaurant in town called Food for Friends that were looking for a head chef. So I went and met the owner of that, ramen, and we had a conversation. I was honest about me wanting to open a restaurant. And he needed someone, so I did a year there, and it was insane. You know, I felt like a commie going back in there. Like the ingredients, it's hard enough writing a menu, I think, when you're just doing like like 2 starters and 2 main courses of vegetarian, vegan, whatever. And this was like a whole menu, and I remember just being like, I remember saying to my other half used to be vegetarian before she fell pregnant. And I remember saying to her at the time, I think I might have made a massive mistake. You know, I think this is out of my comfort zone. But, you know, we did all right. We won Best Restaurant in Brighton on the Brighton Home Food Festival. So
really? Competing, so out of all restaurants, the veggie won.
Yeah.
That was pretty spot on by the person who predicted that, though, really, wasn't it? Well, with the change we've seen, partly certainly in beef prices and stuff over the last few years, but actually that growth in plant-based kind of dining, that must have been a stroke of luck, really, in some ways, that you went and did that. Because have you noticed it now as being a growing market?
Yeah, I mean, especially in Brighton, I think there's a lot of. I think personally, and I try and encourage my family, my kids, to do this as well. Is we try and, well, one of my daughters is now pescatarian, but before that, we would always have like 2 meat, 2 fish, 2 veg over the course of a week, and then a sort of wild card, and then that could be a takeaway or that could be another whatever. So
Not the boil in the bag chicken supreme.
no, I make that.
You're not that spoiled.
I make that for my kids. But yeah, I wish I might go and buy one of them today. To be honest with you.
See it on the specials menu later.
Yeah. But yeah, I think that the embracing, I think it's all about balanced diet. You know, everyone's talking about if you eat less meat, it's going to be better for the planet. And I'm honestly in a position now, especially having Mama. You know, we're the people that are almost at the front line, really. You know, we're the people that can dictate, as in restaurants, are people that can dictate what the customer eats. You know, it's our choice what they eat. And I'm kind of, hopefully, I mean, obviously it's their choice to eat in the restaurant or not, but for what we put on the menu, I mean, it's our choice. And I really want to encourage people eating vegetables, and, you know, I try and use as much as we can in the best way that we can. And there's such great suppliers in Brighton now. The reduction of plastic and all these sorts of things is kind of what I really want to focus on, as much as the vegetable-based things. But it's all positive, you know. I think there's no. I think the way that it's more, for me, it's more the mass farming of things, you know, like the pork and the chickens and all these sorts of things. Like the difficult thing is that they make it so cheap that you get the option of having 3 chickens for a tenner or whatever it is, and then you can get like a free organic top of the range chicken for £15. I mean, everyone's going to go for the 3 chickens for a tenner, aren't they? Like, people that, everything's so expensive at the moment that no one's going to really take the step. And what they need to do is just eliminate it, so there isn't an option for that sort of treatment towards animals or whatever. So the only option is £15 chicken. So you have that once a week. You utilise it as much as you can, and then the rest of the time you're having, you know, vegetables, or could be insects in the next couple of years. You know what I mean? Who knows?
Yeah,
but,
or chicken grown in a dish, a Petra dish, or something like that, isn't it? So
like the option is there, and if you're, you know, most families in the UK you have a budget. You know, you and if the option is to get the cheaper thing, then I would put my life on it that is what a lot of people are gonna go for, because it's feeding a family, you know, and I think that's something that is only going to change if there's more knowledge put out about how to cook things, and if the product's not there for people to be able to buy.
Do you feel a sense of responsibility as a chef that, you know, there's a lot of growing diabetes, obesity? You know, clearly we have a problem with food, or perceived problem in this country and in the US in a different way than probably around the Med and you know, France and Spain. Do you think we have an obligation to actually take some responsibility for what we feed people, or is it just a case if people want to buy it, let them buy it?
No, I mean, I very much focus on. We do our best to have healthy, fresh. You know, we make everything in house, and I think it's important to. We give people the option, obviously, for whatever. I mean, if I want to cook something in butter, then I'll do it. You know, I'll always state things that we're going to be doing, but I'm not suggesting we're going to only serve salads and raw fish for the next little while. But I think we do need to all embrace not only the pollution and that's a bigger thing I'm worried about, to be honest with you, is what we're doing to the world through waste. But I also do think about what people eat. But at the end of the day, it is that person's choice. You know, you can't stop someone from buying 5 Mars bars and wolfing them down. Do you know what I mean? And I think it just takes a bit of willpower from that person. I think the bigger problem is single-use plastic and waste.
Yeah, certainly wasting food. Although I think the meat industry in particular, and the amount of fossil fuels required to kind of feed all of or to grow all of the food that we're then feeding to the animals, it's a very inefficient way of kind of feeding the planet, I think. So I've changed. I mean, 18 months ago, I was the same. I was kind of like veggie food. That we always made sure there was some veggie. I just used to get annoyed by vegetarians coming in and going, look, there's only 3 dishes on the menu and all that kind of stuff. Whereas as I've become more educated around it, I guess, we now, rather than having a separate little section at the bottom of the menu, we're trying to give people a plant-based option right up in the main menu next to the core food. So on our burgers, we've got a seafront restaurant of the day, a little bit like you mentioned earlier, sort of more cafe by day, restaurant by night. But it's kind of like, beef burger, chicken burger, plant burger. If there's a curry, it's a fish, it's a chicken, it's a plant. We even do a nachos and a plant nachos with some sort of cashew cheese and stuff. And I think if we can start to build it in, for me, telling people to cut down on their meat and only have it twice a week is probably a bit nanny state, and it's not going to work. Whereas if you can show them and say, actually, look, here's a beef burger and here's a plant burger, and rather than kind of when we were just, it was a token gesture, kind of deep frying some bloody veggie burger and it was horrible. Whereas now actually thinking about how can we get some goodness into that? How do we get whole foods into it? Can we put some quinoa and some black beans and some beetroot and come up with these kind of plant burgers? Well, actually, they punch really good flavour, and you bite into it and you go, you know what? I think that's probably actually better than the beef burger. So I think that ability to move away from maybe our parents who just made mushy broccoli and carrots, and maybe not your mum, she was a chef, but my mum did, to actually we can make plant-based food awesome. But I'd much rather that we went along the whole food plant-based than these kind of weird burgers that are made in a factory in America that are trying to replicate meat. It's like, why bother trying to replicate meat? Why don't you just kind of have something else?
Like a lot of that, everyone talks about the processed meats and things, but a lot of the vegetarian things, like the way they're processed as well,
it's just dire.
It's wrong.
It is wrong. Okay, anyway, so you end up going on that little adventure and then finally open your own place. So 64 Degrees, how was that? Instantaneous success?
I wouldn't say it was instantaneous success, no.
Was it £1,000 the first week? Or?
Getting the doors open was so hard, like going from being a chef to being a restaurateur. I wish I'd done a little bit more research, to be honest with you. Like, it's not easy. It's probably the hardest thing. I mean, I've done quite a few hard things in my day, and that's probably one of the hardest things I've ever done. It's kind of why I've got a lot of grey hair, I think. Like
I'm just laughing at the fact you said it was. Surely it still is, isn't it? Is it a walk in the park now?
I don't know.
Or just that first?
There was. I've done
year.
A few. Like the banquet at Great British Menu almost tipped me over the edge.
Yeah, I bet. Yeah.
But opening a restaurant just because of the duration. And I didn't really think about a lot of things. I was kind of naive, stupid in some senses. I didn't even put a bar into 64 Degrees. There was no place to serve alcohol.
Really? Wow.
And I didn't even think of that.
Okay.
Like, until
that is
it was going. Yeah. Until it was basically built.
With the first person who ordered a beer, and you went,
Yeah, it kind of was like that. And I didn't apply for an alcohol license, and I thought it was just something you could get.
Brilliant.
And it turns out it's quite a long process.
Yeah.
But all these things are learning.
It's I've had those debates over the years with chefs because from a chef perspective, it's all about the food. Whereas from a restaurant perspective, it's the art,
it's taken
not
me
the
a
science.
long time to learn that.
Yeah, and that's normal in
6 years this year, and it's probably just the last 2 years that I've actually thought that there's more to it than just the food. I've just been so one-dimensional a lot of times and just focusing on what I think's important. But now, my other half, Carla, I hate to say that she's, she would say things to me like, maybe, making it out like I might be incorrect. And I'd be like,
no way.
No possible. And then
Outrageous.
It turns out that she's right and I am incorrect.
Yeah.
Which we might want to delete that from here so she doesn't.
I won't. Don't worry. I won't listen. But any specific examples? Was this sell beer? No.
There's a few, but when I opened the restaurant, I think I didn't. It's kind of really bad. I mean, what am I going to say? Like, it's probably the worst way of going into business, right? I didn't do any publicity. I didn't have any PR. I didn't tell anyone, we just basically opened the doors. I was so sort of terrified at the fact of, because the food style was something so different than Brighton's ever seen before, that I didn't want there to be queues of people coming in and the kitchen to go down. I mean, that was my biggest worry. So I just wanted there to be a couple of people come in, and then we would serve people at a comfortable rate, and then kind of do it like that. But originally, there's no bookings. You could just walk in. It's insane, really. So the first week, I think we opened on a Thursday, and by the Sunday, I think we'd taken something like £800.
Wow.
And I remember thinking, well, then the next week we took for the whole week, we might have took, I don't know, £2,000, something like that, £1,500. And then I remember thinking, I think I made a massive mistake. And I remember taking the head chef this side, and I was like, I don't know what we're going to do. And then something happened, and it was like, we got an incredible review. It started picking up slowly, and we got a lot of people talking about us. And there was a few things on I can't remember if Instagram wasn't around then, I don't think. I think it was Twitter maybe. There was a few things on Twitter, and we seemed to be popping up a lot on things, and we got a little bit more busy. And then we got an incredible review in The Observer from a food critic, Marina. And she basically said, essentially, that we were the best thing that's ever happened best thing to happen in Brighton for a long time, possibly ever, I think was one of the comments. And yeah, from that point on, I've said this a few times, and I remember reading an article a long time ago, I think it was by Marco Pierre White, where he said that there was a certain food critic who come in and praised his meal, and he claimed that was the moment that changed his life. And I honestly believe that the review that we got in The Observer changed everything about 64 Degrees. Because we went from being, all right, to being, I could have turned the restaurant 8 times a day for a long time. I had to hire someone just to answer the phone, it went totally insane. And then from that, it just kind of escalated from, we had a lot of reviewers in, and I also got the opportunity to go on Great British Menu. So yeah.
And just before we talk about that, so the concept, you mentioned it being very different. Can you just explain how does it work in there? Because you're pretty much the kitchen's in the restaurant, basically.
Yeah, the idea was always meant to be what I originally wanted. Where 64 Degrees is now wasn't originally where I wanted it to be. It was originally going to be down on Kensington Gardens. That was the place I really wanted. Kensington Gardens, and it was just going to be a bar. There was going to be 16 people sitting at it, and it was going to be chef serving only, and that was going to be it. That was the dream. Obviously, that didn't. I mean, where it is now came up, and someone told me that it's with that site that we have now is kind of like the Lamborghini of sites. It's kind of like the one you want. So, it then had tables and that sorts of things. It was unrealistic for chefs to just serve everything. And it turns out chefs don't know much about wine and stuff. So, basically, I then started hiring front of house. I started off with 4 chefs, 1 front of house, and that soon. So there was 5 of us to start off, and we basically just whacked all the time. I closed Sundays and Mondays, I think, and then we just opened the rest of the time, and everyone just whacked. And then that's kind of gone from 5 to now we've got 20 staff.
Wow.
From office to KPs and all sorts. So, yeah, I think it was just, what, everyone reckons that, I have had a few people say that, 64 Degrees has changed the way that Brighton eats, and it's, that sort of thing. And I don't want to talk it down or anything, but what I will say is I think it was just ready for something, and we both connected at the same time. I just think it could have been anyone. I don't think it's the fact of what 64 Degrees is. I think it's just the fact that it happened at the exact right time to then take this next food evolution that's happened in Brighton. Because the food standard in Brighton has ramped up a lot, in the last 5 years. It's incredible. I mean, I'm extremely proud to be part of the food scene in Brighton because it's great, and I can recommend. The best thing about it as well is that we're all mates. No one in Brighton, or that I know of anyway, wouldn't wish the best for another person. If someone comes down from Brighton, if someone comes down to Brighton from London or whatever, chances are they're going to eat in 3 or 4 restaurants. They're going to stay in a hotel. They're going to eat probably, if they're coming down to eat at 64 Degrees, chances are they're going to eat a Little Fish Market or Stephen Edwards, or they're going to eat at Ginger Man Guys or whatever. They're going to eat in. It just makes everyone's business better, and I think everyone's in the same wavelength. and everyone wants the best for everyone else. There's no sort of competition really. There's banter.
Exactly.
We've all got a bit of friendly banter.
Yeah, I think it's a nice thing about this industry is that it's fundamentally it's about hospitality, isn't it? I don't think you should work in this industry and be an arsehole, basically. It's kind of like we're on Earth.
It's amazing how many there is.
There are, but we fundamentally, ones who are doing it for genuine reasons, it's that, I think it's a reflex. You by reflex, you want to make somebody else happy. You want to look after them. Somebody walks in, you want to kind of say, hey, can I get you anything? Take a seat, relax, kind of spend some time, just chill out. I think it's built into certain people's DNA, and other people have the complete opposite, and they shouldn't work in hospitality, but there are a few of those as well. But for those who don't know, how many covers is 64 Degrees? Because it's not a big place, is it? It's
20 covers.
Yeah.
When we first opened, it was 27.
Right. But you had to make them for the bar.
I had to make a bar, so someone's come out.
Okay. And it was inspired a little bit by food envy, so it's a lot of sharing dishes. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the main thing behind it. Yeah. So there's nothing worse than sitting in a restaurant and you're all having a main course, and you notice that your partner's got a dish that you really wanted. So the idea behind it essentially was to get a plate in the centre and everyone sort of digs into it and has a bit of has a bit each. And I love eating like that. I mean, I know it's not everyone's cup of tea, and it can be a bit awkward depending what your environment is. But yeah, it's about sharing, and it's about enjoying yourself. And the amount of times on the pass area, so it goes from 1 to 10 on the pass. And then there's 10 tables. So there's 10 in the pass and 10 on the tables. And on the pass area, there's 4 at the top end and there's 6 at the bottom end. And the amount of times it could be 3 twos there that'll end up chatting. So if I'm on the pass, I have conversations with people, we have a bit of a laugh, and then 2 might start talking to each other, and then the 3 couples then end up starting talking to each other, and then they'll end up all leaving together and going for a drink together, and there's actually one group of people that comes that there's 2 couples that come back to the restaurant because that's where they met.
Really?
So and they just became
nice.
mates. So then they'll go out and have a few drinks and they'll come back to the restaurant. That's really nice. It's good to be. It's just good to have that energy. It goes back to the dining thing where I want people to have a laugh. The music's probably a little bit too loud, but it's kind of what I like. And everyone's kind of enjoying themselves. I think there's a lot of energy in there on a Saturday night, and you want there to be. There's nothing worse than it just being like misery. You see, like, you sit next to the person and it's just like straight faced. We try and get a bit of energy in there and get people to enjoy their day. It's kind of what I want the staff to achieve. It's not about us serving them the best meal they're ever going to have. I want them to really enjoy the meal they're going to have, but I also want them to have the best experience. The experience is the key, and that puts me back to the fact that it's not always about the food. I
was going to say you've gone on that journey from it just being about food to really getting that kind of energy, I think, isn't it? Again, and I always say to my team, you've got to be professional first, without a doubt, but fun should be really, really close second. You can't have it the other way around. You can't have more fun than professionalism. But as long as you're professional, have fun, because there people are coming in for fun, and they will feed off of that energy. We love that kind of banter the chefs are exposed. Can you make money? Because 20 covers wouldn't generally be enough to make cash, I suppose, in the restaurant world. So speed of service must be key, I suppose, turning the tables. Yeah, we do
turn the tables, but I'm in the process of. 64 Degrees is never going to be the place that's going to make me my millions. It has always been about food. Yeah, what I just said there, but it's about the experience and what essentially what I'm going to do in the future. Just coming up very soon, actually. Bit of inside knowledge for you is we're going to be changing the dynamics of the restaurant a little bit. I'm going to close a couple of days. I'm going to close a day, and I'm going to close a few shifts just to get the team sorted, because the restaurant gets beasted too much. It's like it's done a hard graft. We've been open pretty much every day apart from Christmas for the last 6 years, and it needs a rest, right. And the team needs a rest. So I'm going to focus on what's important, and we're going to do less covers, I'm going to do less tans. I'm just going to focus on my team, I'm going to focus on the experience. So nice. That's what's happening in the future. Yeah. You can do that financially? Yeah, like I say, as long as it's not losing money, I'll be happy. Yeah. Excellent. It's nice to do that, and that's what I love about
this side of India, genuine hospitality, where it is about people going in and having a good time, but it is also about looking after your team and not kind of killing them as well. When we're in peak service now, height of the summer, my guys are getting an absolute beasting down in Bournemouth, where my restaurants are on the seafront, and I feel for them, and I have to keep saying, look, 7 weeks to go, and I promise you it will fall off a cliff. But I
always find it was hard for me to adjust to that. Like from my life back then, you do 5 doubles or 6 doubles, whatever. And that's just what you did all the time. And then when you hear the young lads saying, oh, it's my 3rd double. And I just think to myself, what? Crack on, you're just like, you're 21.
Yeah, exactly.
But now I'm a lot more caring towards that. And I'm like, oh, that's not good. Let's change that.
Yeah.
I'm a lot more soft.
Yeah.
I'm too soft. Negative about having children, makes you soft.
It's true. But makes you tired, I think. And then you just appreciate other people who say they're tired.
Try Oprah Winfrey and all sorts. It's like, it's made me a weak person.
I share that. So restaurant ends up going well, and then the opportunity comes up for it was Great British Menu. How did that come about?
Do you know, they just called.
Yeah.
I think there was an article in the Evening Express that suggested that we were tipped to get a Michelin star, something like that. And it was that same week that then the Great British Menu called and said that they found out I was from Scotland and wanted to know if I do the Great British Menu, which I obviously said I'd love to. They came and filmed me, and I didn't get in the first year, so I was a bit gutted. And then the next year they called me back and said that they've gone through all the old films from last year and they'd really like to get me in with so I didn't have to be approved. I was already in, and I was stoked, as you can imagine. I'm a massive fan of Great British Menu. I was so excited. And it was such a great experience. Like, the chefs you meet, the people you meet, it was amazing.
Was it very time consuming? Did it take you out of the business for long? Or?
Yeah.
Yeah?
It's kind of like 6 months.
Is it?
On and off.
Wow.
From you getting the brief, you've then got 2 weeks, I think, to write your menu. Then you've got 3 weeks to write your recipes. And then you've got to wait for whenever it is you're going to be filming. So you've got to practice your dishes. Then you've got to wait for the finals week. So it's 8 weeks after that. And then if you're lucky enough to get through the banquet, you're there. But maybe 6 months is more than it's not that much. But it's a long time.
Did the business cope without you?
Yeah, one thing about both restaurants are that I think I'm a valuable part of the team. My direction and my vision and the way that I am towards the team. They all tell me they love it when I'm in the kitchen and doing things, but they might be lying. The main thing is that I feel I've built a team in both restaurants that can cope without me. I obviously still step in and I do my thing, and I'm working at 64 degrees 3 days a week, and I come in here whenever I can. It's just hard to commit, with all the other things to business, be it paperwork and financials and staff issues and HR and all the other bits and bobs you've got to worry about. It's hard for me to sit down and actually commit to being a chef, So I only go in when it's possible.
Yeah, as an extra rather than as an essential part of the team in case you get pulled off.
Yeah.
So first year you did it 2 years, I think, in 2016. You get to the final, didn't quite nail it. How did that feel? Being so
horrendous.
Close. Yeah.
Oh, I genuinely believe I'd won. In my mind, my mackerel dish, I absolutely loved it, and everyone that was there was like, "It's amazing, you've won," and everyone, all the chefs and everyone had said to me oh, "You've definitely got this." The story behind it, the dish itself, and all that, and I just thought, inside I was like, amazing. And I got 4 10s from the judges. I got 4 10s from Daniel Clifford. I got a 10 from Daniel Clifford, and everyone sort of praised it. And then, Tommy Banks walks in, steals the limelight. But he was amazing, so I can't really take that from him. But I was gutted for myself. I was extremely happy for Tommy and gutted for myself. But then it gave me the opportunity to come back again.
Was that the motivation to go back and finish?
Yeah, definitely. I really felt like I had unfinished business, but I really want my fish course to win. There was something about it that I felt like, and I still feel like, it's my fish course that I want. It's the fish course I want to win. Not that I'm saying I'd go back, but
Because what was it that won it? What was the dish in the
The ox
when you
tongue.
did?
My ox tongue.
Was that the grass is greener? Is it that one? Yeah.
Ox tongue with a jus-filled ravioli.
But you're not happy. It needs to be fish.
It was fish that I wanted. The ox tongue, I'm happy that it won, and obviously it's the only ever dish that's won the Great British
Even
Menu.
with the accent,
Yeah.
awful. Yeah.
That's ever won the Great British Menu, and I mean, I'm extremely the nervous thing about ever going back would be obviously my first year. I got 10 from the veteran judge. I got 4 10s from the judges, and I almost won my first year. And then the second year, I got 10 from the veteran judge. I got 4 10s from the judges on different things, to be fair. And then I won. So if I was to go back,
Where'd you go
and get
from
kicked
there?
out from Thursday, that would just ruin my whole day.
Have you been invited?
I have. I mean, when I finished, they asked if I'd do it again, and I said maybe. And my other half, Carla, said, "Nah, he's not doing it again."
She's seen the stress.
The boss
She's
has
seen
spoken.
behind the scenes. You
Yeah.
did say she's occasionally right as well.
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, I am happier than myself not having to.
Yeah, put
It is
yourself under that
stressful.
pressure.
I mean, it's so hard, but it was such an enjoyable experience. More for the reason I did it the second time as well. One of the main reasons I did it the second time was because of the sort of the friendships you make. On the end of week, so on the finals week, it was so much fun. Like all the chefs, it was like doing 7 stages. You're all working together. I was the only chef there that wasn't working either for or with a Michelin-starred chef. Everyone else, there was like 9 Michelin stars and then me, and it was like just seeing how all the other chefs worked was amazing. And then there was no arrogance in the room. Like everyone was so nice, and we all went out for drinks after. We all went out for a meal after. It was just like we all stayed in the same hotel. We all got picked up in the morning. It was such a great little something that you never have the chance of doing. It was there, and that's something that really pushed me on.
Amazing to work with your peers at that level. So.
Yeah, it was so great.
And then you end up off the back of that. It's the banquet at Wimbledon Tennis Club. How was that? Was that a low stress day, or was that,
That I think that could be the hardest day of my life.
really?
Yeah.
What did you have to do?
I had to make 100 jus-filled raviolis. That was the thing that tipped me over
Did
the
they
edge.
all come with you and help out, or they all
I
buggered
was
off
on
by
my
that
own.
point?
I
Oh,
was on my
really?
own.
You won. You're on your own.
Yeah. But yeah, it was stressful, and I'm not gonna lie. I found it very hard, just because I wanted to do my best, And at the end of the day, I think when it's taken away from you from giving it 100%, because they've obviously got to do filming. They've obviously got to stop you and say, right, can you do it again? Can you do it again? And then can you come down here? Can you come down here and play tennis for a bit and do all sorts of stuff? And I'm thinking, I've got raviolis to make.
Yeah.
I need to be pushing on.
Yeah.
So I found that very stressful.
Yeah. Nice.
But I had a great experience.
So to help you relax, you opened this place.
Yeah.
Yeah. Good. That took your mind
this
off
is
it
my
a little bit.
this is my happy place. Yeah.
What was the motivation for doing another one then?
Well, I'd done a second restaurant in London under the name 64 Degrees as well. That didn't work out for me.
Really?
Learning a lot about business during that time. I lost a bit of money, and just realizing that you're not as good as you think you are. It's a really good thing to learn, and it was a valuable experience for me. So that was one of the things that my other half, Carla, said, I'm not sure if this is the right time to do this. And I was like, nah, it'll be fine. And then that was one that she'll never let me forget. So this actually was a new build site. So the I360 had been built, and I think, none of this had been built, and none of this was up. So it was all like a building site here. And we'd seen a sign as we walked past, or Carl had seen a sign when we walked past saying, call for information. There's going to be 2 restaurants here. So there's one here, and then Flower Pot's got one there. So Carla then came up to me and said, listen, I've got a crazy idea, but what do you think if, because I'd known I'd won the Great British Menu, obviously, and it was going to get shown like 6 months or 8 months after I'd filmed it. And Carla was like, it might be really good if we opened a second restaurant to sort of capture the moment. And what about down the beach? And we came down, we looked at it, we went and viewed it. And this was a total shell. And yeah, we basically did it, which was great.
Different concept to 64 degrees?
Very different, yeah. So this is more beachy. It's about the product. You know, we don't really do anything flash to it. You know, we just get a beautiful piece of fish. We cook it very simply and serve it with, you know, salad, new potatoes or whatever. And it's about it's about the experience in a different sort of way. You know, the food is well executed and great product that we get here. I think the view's incredible. And it's about, you know, the service, and it's about, I think, the starter, main courses and desserts here, whereas at 64 degrees it's more about, there's 4 fish, 4 meat, 4 veg. You kind of make your own sort of, kind of loose term, make your own tasting menu sort of thing. So you pick 6 or 8 dishes, whatever. And I love it down here. I mean, this is my 3rd day here this week, you know. I just come down and see the lads, get in the kitchen every now and again, sit and enjoy the view, do my work.
Did you put a bar in this one?
We put a bar in this one,
you?
yeah.
You're
But Carla was a lot more involved, because when we opened 64 degrees, we had our second child, Heidi. Okay. So Carla was we were both very busy, but I kind of went off on yeah. Carla was a lot more involved here, so it kind of went a lot more smoother.
That's a good admission. She's going to love this.
She is, yeah.
You're gonna get some credibility. So as it stands now, then you've got 2. Is this one? It's bigger. There's more covers in this one.
Yeah,
is
so there's 38 covers inside and 40 covers outside.
Okay, so a bit different. Is it very seasonal, being on the beach?
It's extremely seasonal, yeah. So, although we've got these new umbrellas outside, so they're all heated, and we've got a thing that comes between here, like a gutter, so we can do things outside, and then it's all lit up and stuff. But yeah, if it's a horrendously rainy day in the winter, it can be extremely quiet down here. But then if it's sunshine like today, you could do 300 covers. So
wow,
it swings and roundabouts.
Can you flex your staff easily to cope with that? Or?
Staffing is never an easy situation, you know. So we just kind of, what we try and achieve is understanding when our busy times of the year is, and we maximise the staff at that time. And then over winter time, we then reduce it to a skeleton team. And then in between that, we just have a certain percentage of what our forecast is for how busy we are. And based on that, we'll staff to that level. And if it's more busy, then we'll gauge it, you know, stagger the flow and whatever else. I mean, Arwan does front of house. He's very good. He understands how
not to completely destroy the kitchen in 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Ideally.
Yeah. Exactly.
Otherwise, he'll get cooked. So you've alluded to this already, I guess, that now you're a restaurateur rather than just a chef, and you've got these kind of, one, amazing opportunities about choosing what you want to sell people. 2, I suppose, suppliers that you want to use, where you get your food from, but you also get buried in kind of admin and email and legislation and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Out of everything you now do, what's the most rewarding part of your job and this industry for you?
For me?
For you personally, yeah.
Most rewarding part? I mean, like I said earlier, my reward is sort of being able to go and cook in a kitchen that I really enjoy cooking in. I mean, that's really what I want to be able to do, Not be committed to doing the 18 hours a day, 5-6 days a week, but just to be able to, I can rock into either site and just cook, and no one would think anything of it, and at the same time, it's not something that's it's just an extremely enjoyable thing that I can do in both sites, which not everyone has the opportunity to do that.
It's true. It's quite a big thing to create, just so that occasionally you can go and kind of show off your fish to your brigade, isn't it? But I'm sure you could have found an easier way.
I do love doing that.
But that's your favourite bit. There's a really high failure rate in restaurants, and we've seen it, I think, particularly the last probably 18 months. This sea change, I think, and again back in that casual dining particularly, I guess, although I think maybe that just gets more publicity than the independent sector, but we're seeing cost of staff go up, we're seeing cost of produce go up, maybe an oversupply. in the market. Is there any kind of advice that you hear being given to people or in hospitality where you go, that's just nonsense, ignore it? Or is there any advice that you give? Because I guess in your position, people come to you and go, hey, look, I really want to get into this industry, where you say, right, whatever you do,
you know what?
this.
I would definitely, I don't really do advice because it is so subjective. I think what we do, my opinion might not be everyone else's opinion. And I think with it, you've just got to go with what you know. Like, if I had any advice, one of it would be definitely to understand. When you hear about people that just have a dream and they're like, oh, I fancy opening a restaurant, and I've been a architect for the last 20 years and now I've got X amount of money and I think I'm just going to open the doors to some restaurant. And I would say to them, listen, get a job in a restaurant and go and work in there for a little bit, because as much as the romance is like, this could be amazing, it's so hard. And even for me, that's, I've done this, I've worked in the restaurant industry, hospitality industry, should we say, for all of my sort of career, since I was 16. And, it is not as easy as, to make money is it's so hard, to balance everything, staff costs, VAT, what is that about? And having all these bills from bins to, things you just do not think about. It is brutal. And yeah, that would be my top advice, would be just to say to people, do a stint in, actually, when I was working at, I won't actually say the name of the restaurant. When I was working at a restaurant, a top restaurant, whilst I was in London, there was a point in time where the pastry chef had then said to the head chef that he'd gone for an interview to another restaurant and they'd offered him more money. So he was trying to say to the head chef, I'm looking for some more money. And the head chef then turned to him and said, you should go to the other job. And then left him a little bit in a not great place, but at the same time, I remember his words, what he said to me was, never let anyone put you against the wall. Never put yourself in a position where you can't do the other person's job. Or, you see all these, you see some people that have, where head chefs can just sort of dictate to an owner, because the owner's, if he doesn't do what they do, you'd almost held at ransom. And for me, I would very much, my advice would be able to step in or be able to put yourself in a position that if anything did happen, you can take over. Not necessarily be a head chef, but you could say, right, well, I could smash this for tonight and I'll worry about it tomorrow. And because, I've seen a lot of things where people, you can be put in a position of negativity, and there's nothing worse than that.
No, that's good advice. I think you're that point on people who've got a load of money and think a little bit of a trophy restaurant looks nice. I can sit at the end of the bar and drink some nice wine and chat to some customers. Look lovely. I know a lot of people who've lost a lot of money by trying to do this.
Yeah.
I was interviewing Mark Hicks a few weeks ago in his garden down in deepest Dorset, and I asked him 3 times, what advice would you give somebody to open a restaurant in slightly different ways? And his advice to every single one of them was don't. That was basically it. I think particularly, he said it's just changed so much in the last few years, that ability to make money out of it compared to when he started, 15 years ago with his own places was just, it was easier in those days.
I think the competition, I don't think people understand that, first of all, a product costs a certain amount of money to get it, right? People still think you can get 3 courses for £20. First of all, if you are getting 3 courses for £20, what the hell are you eating? It ain't going to be, it's been grown on a rat's back or something like that. Do you know what I mean? It's not the thing that you think it is. Unless it's a byproduct of something that they've got on the menu, which is, again, it's, I find it very hard to, you almost, like people say, oh, you're expensive, or you're this, you're that, or TripAdvisor. I hate TripAdvisor. If I could change one thing in the world, it would be TripAdvisor. I'm not sure if I've said this before or not, but...
Not to me.
It's like, no one in the world has a business plan of making someone's life miserable, You don't walk into our industry and be like, right, table 15, let's make their day horrible. And we'll do 18 as well while we're at it. And you just think, like, everybody, the amount of money to open a restaurant, first of all, is insane. There shouldn't be, it shouldn't be that expensive. But it is. Rent is insane. If you've got a good location, it can be enough to make you cry. I mean, there's a place down there, I won't even tell you what it is, but there's a place down there, a new place, which is bonkers. Anyone that takes that on is going to be insane to do it. Anyway, from the way that people can just say things on TripAdvisor about, don't go, I beg you, don't go there, let's shut down this restaurant. It's like, that's someone's life, you know, someone's put their heart and soul into it. You might not agree with it. And any restaurateur or business person, if someone sent them an email directly and said, I just want to give you some advice. I just want to give you, not even advice, I just want to make a comment. My experience last night wasn't great. XYZ happened. I just wanted to let you know. Any business owner would probably be like, I'm extremely grateful for that, thank you very much. And then possibly whatever they're trying to achieve is then going to be achieved, you know? Like, and that business owner then deal with the situation. I remember, I mean, there's only a handful of times where I'll I don't reply really. There's only been once, I think, I've replied to a TripAdvisor comment. I don't actually read TripAdvisor now because it upsets me too much. I said this earlier, but I have, you know, my other half and everyone else reads them, and then if there's anything that I need to know, then they'll fill me in. Just because I take it so personally, you know, when you're trying to like make a living and you're trying to do things to a way that, and there's no other business in the world that you can say, like a cashier or someone that works, you know, service at Asda, didn't like the way the woman looked at me. I thought she beeped my food aggressively. You think, like, you just wouldn't do that? But then we had a table here, actually. I'm not going to name any names. This is the only time I've ever replied. We had a table here, and they got a bit leery, and some of them, the group, climbed on top of the tables and then started to do a thing called a slut drop. Right? Not sure if you know what that is, but
no,
it's a dance move.
Okay.
That the youths are doing
feeling
nowadays.
a bit uncool now.
I was going to show you. I'll show you after.
Okay, great. I'm looking forward to it.
We can take a picture.
Yeah.
Anyway, this starts happening on a busy Saturday night, and the manager came over and said, "Is there any chance we can not do this?" Sort of in a polite way. Yeah. This is a restaurant, not a nightclub. Can we just chill out a little bit? To which then they leave grumpily and write this massive review with a picture of my manager saying, this guy's totally spoiled our night, and then had a massive rant about just that experience. And you think, who does that?
It's outrageous, isn't it?
It's outrageous. Mm. And then the way that if people, like, my advice to everyone is out there, if you have a problem with something on your food, especially in my restaurants anyway, if you don't eat it and you give it back to someone and say, this isn't for me, I appreciate it, what you're doing, but this dish, I don't like it, or it's not for me. They will take it away, and they will, they won't charge you for that, and they will also probably change it for something else that you do want. And that's just common sense. But to either leave it and then not say anything, pay for it, and then get home and say, it was horrendous, I hated it, is just stupid.
It's depressing kind of side of humanity, I think, isn't it?
I just don't get it at all.
I share your perspective times 10, and I was the same. When I had an Apple Watch, and back in the day, I used to get every review would come through not only to my phone, but it would come through to my watch. I didn't know how to turn it off. It's like I was signed in to whatever it was, whether it be Google or Facebook or TripAdvisor, and I'd be out with the kids at the weekend, just having a nice day or whatever, and I'd start seeing these reviews come through, and you'd be going, look, I know that the pressure's probably on. It's a sunny day, it's in the summer, and all of a sudden you'd see like a couple of negative reviews, and it would my wife would be like, what have you seen? What have you read? Nothing, darling, nothing, darling. And it would ruin your day to the point where I wanted to pop round to these people's houses on the way home, not because I wanted to threaten them or shout them. I just wanted to explain and go, you're so opinionated and so rude, yet you've got no idea how much work goes on behind the scenes. You kind of put, it's a license to print money, you got a restaurant on the beach, you don't care. And I'm like, don't care. There's 6 managers down there. There's a brigade of chefs who've been working at this restaurant for 7 years, and all they do every single day is go in there and try and make people happy. Like you say, they never go in and go, right, how many people can I irritate today? Yeah. Their sole objective is to look after you and make sure you have a good time. So yes, we might mess it up. Absolutely, we might mess it up. But it's never because
no one's perfect.
We want to.
I at home, I'll burn a toast every now and again.
Yeah, exactly. And
you've got to take account for some things. Yeah. And it goes back to my whole thing about working 18 hours a day and things. Like, life is not that important. Yeah. Life is important. I mean, the moment is not that important. You know, like, if you didn't enjoy your meal, just don't go back and send a message to the person saying, listen, I didn't get what you do. I didn't like the meal. This is why. Thank you. I shan't be coming back.
Yeah.
Cool. You know, I'm cool with that. If someone doesn't want to come and eat in my restaurant, happy days. I can give you 20 other restaurants in Brighton. That's amazing. But don't try and shut down my business. You know, like don't try and make my life misery because you've got the power to sit on front of a computer and no one sees what your face looks like.
I can't pay my mortgage. I lose the house. The kids can't go to to school or whatever. And you just think, why would you do that to somebody's life? How can you be that obnoxious? And also,
just over a pasta or just over a tomato being cut at an angle.
Demonstrate to me where you're kind of putting your balls on the line and grafting and stuff. I always say to my accountant when I have these little rants, and I say, look, nobody goes online and does that with your business. Nobody goes, it was a Monday and they'd run out of staples when I went there or paper clips, and it's outrageous. Exactly. And your supplier, the fishing boat might not have been out because it was really rough at sea Friday, Saturday, Sunday, and it's a Monday, so we haven't got any fish. We've got loads of other food, but there was no fish specials on the specials board. And you're like, there's a reason for that. We don't get our food out of the freezer.
I've had 1-star reviews for people that couldn't get into the restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
And you're like,
you don't even.
That's not my fault. I'm sorry. Like book earlier, and then it just.
It's interesting because it's such a. I think it's a scandal that it happens. I don't know what you do about it because it's a country of free choice, but it's not in every industry. Yet the flip side is that review you got in the paper, was a game changer for you. So we should just let people who maybe know what they're talking about reviewing papers and get rid of the rest of it.
Yeah,
but it's
the sad thing as well is that this is a part of it that I hate is the people that give lots of compliments, they almost get overlooked. They're the ones that are like, oh great, Janice from wherever or Kevin from wherever, they love their meal. You almost like bypass that to go to the person that's really annoyed you for the 1 star, and the person that is giving you a compliment, you're not giving them enough attention. You're not giving them the ability. You're not in a position to be able to say thank you. Because if you say thank you to them, then you got to say, to the other person. And I just would rather step away from it and just be not my world. I just want that's a thing that I do not focus on. Yeah,
I say to my team now. I mean, I'm super busy. It's an industry where you've got to have a kind of positivity and an energy. And I say there's 3 types of meetings or experiences or things that happens. There's stuff that gives me energy. There's stuff that's kind of energy neutral, and there's stuff that drains my energy. And anything now that really drains my energy, I really, really try and avoid it. And all of that kind of reviews and TripAdvisor.
We have gained from it once actually. There was a few comments made over a period of time that was about the seats that we have down there used to not have backs on them. And there was a few comments made about that. And it got to a stage where I thought, at the beginning I thought, I quite like them stools, so I'm going to keep them. And then it got to a few more, and I thought, maybe we should think about it. And then it got to a few more, and now we've changed it. So I do take on what people say, if it's warranted.
Yeah.
But at the same time, you've got to stand by what you do sometimes. You've got to look at something and say, this is my idea. If my idea is standing on the beach, naked with an oyster shucker and some oysters, that's your idea. And if the selling point is the fact that you being there naked, then you roll with that. And if someone comes over and says they don't like you being naked, you shouldn't really have to put your clothes back on. I mean, obviously for legal reasons you might. But if that is your selling point, then roll with it. Like you don't want to change your concept or your idea too much for the customer.
Yeah.
You should stick to your guns a little bit.
Otherwise, the world becomes beige. It's kind of the point of this podcast, is that if we just roll out formulaic, dull, compliant stuff that everybody kind of goes, yes, that's fine. Where's the excitement? Somebody's got to be brave and go out there and try and do something different. And then it's Marmite, isn't it? Not everybody likes Marmite. That's just the way it is, isn't it?
I love Marmite. Have you tried the Marmite and peanut butter thing?
No.
Oh, mate.
But I do love Marmite.
Epic.
Is it?
Yeah.
Good. All right. Well, we'll do that. That's lunch. I think you might have alluded to this briefly just a second ago, but we're pretty much done. But is there anything you think the government could do for this industry? It feels a little bit like it's on its knees at the moment. There's a lot of places going under. What should they do to help?
I mean, if you take the amount of money over the course of whatever you take in a year, the government must take 60% of it, is it, or something like that? From if you think about rent, council's my rent.
Yeah, rates,
VAT, the bin collection,
NI,
VAT, and national insurance, the pension, all these things. Like there needs to be like it almost gets to a stage where it's not worth it. And if that's the case, and every restaurant starts thinking about that, then the amount of jobs. I mean, I hire 40 people, and I'm relatively, I must be more than that, 50 people. And I'm relatively small compared to other places. And it's almost getting to a position where it's not beneficial. I'm almost better to go and be a head chef or an executive chef or something like that in a country house hotel. And that is not where I want to be, for one. But at the same time, it can't just be one-dimensional and focus on. I mean, I'm not saying we don't pay our fair share. I mean, everyone should pay their fair share. I'm a big believer of that. But it's not fair at the moment. You know, it's very much on their favour.
Yeah.
And even to the point that, well, I won't get into that. I'm going to leave that comment I was going to say because I just think that there needs to be especially in seasonal restaurants, in seasonal places. I just don't think they need to be charging as much for everything. You know, like there should be like tax reliefs or whatever for seasonal locations at certain times of the year, or just, I mean, that's kind of unfair to businesses in general, but you know, we're here to make people happy, and it's almost like the government is abusing that.
I think VAT is a big one, isn't it? Because you can go into a supermarket and buy food. Food's considered to be an essential, so you don't pay VAT. Go into a restaurant and have it served to you, and all of a sudden it's not essential, it's a luxury, and we charge VAT on it. And I don't think people appreciate how much of what your bill is actually goes straight to the tax man. I think there's been studies that have shown how quickly if you charge the minimum rate in VAT, or either got rid of it or charged the minimum rate, the sort of 5% rate in hospitality, how quickly that would actually generate jobs. And within 2 years, it would be self-financing. But for me, you know, hospitality is placemaking. People go and live in cities because it's got a great bar and a great restaurant scene. You know, people will sit on my restaurant on the beach in Bournemouth on a balcony overlooking the ocean, and I'm sure they do the same here. And you go, you know what, I'm going to move to that city, I'm going to move to that town. And then they start paying their council tax and all of their other rates and their other rents. For me, I think the way that we live now, restaurants are no longer a luxury. We just eat food more on the go. And we should release a little bit of pressure off of that sector, because it's a massive employer of people. But people have got to eat. People have got to be fed. So let's release the pressure and help make places.
The
kind
amount
of
of places
cooler.
in Brighton that are closed or closing, or I mean, the cost of rent, and all that sort of stuff. It's like they're never going to get. There needs to be a cap on things. You know? Like there needs to be a position where it's a fair representation of what is getting done.
Yeah.
And I don't think it is. It's just not fair. You know.
And my worry is that the only people who can then make it work are the massive kind of, you know, national companies who can screw the margin down so much on what they're buying.
Yeah, but then the produce that they're buying is
and they sell
rubbish.
mediocrity, which is really frustrating. Again, you know, going back to your point on.
But then it's putting money into
the
the farmers' pockets. For us, you know, we're putting money in the farmers' pockets. We're putting money in the local butchers' pockets, the local suppliers. Like, I feel like we do a lot. You know, I feel like, you know, I do a lot. I try and do a lot for charities and all these sorts of things. I just feel like at the end of the day, you think, is it worth it? Yeah. Are we doing the right thing, or are we not? And that's a dangerous position to be in. I think right now is the time that things need to change, especially in the UK with the whole, God forbid, Brexit thing that everyone's talking about. You know, it's like, what is going to happen? I know that there's just the eating culture in Brighton's changed. I've noticed a massive difference. And I think everyone's sort of panicking. It's
a challenging time. I hope it's recognised. I hope, you know, changing government again today. I hope they listen to the hospitality trade, because I think it's an incredible industry. The point of doing this podcast really is to talk to the kind of, you know, the smaller providers like you and the suppliers and go, yeah, we don't want to just have these big national chains that can make the margins work. We need to celebrate those local independents. And as you've alluded to, margins are tight. It's super hard. So anybody who's listening, you know, always try and support the little guy.
Yeah, sadly, I think they're focusing more on. It always reverts back to money, which is, you know, I certainly don't do what I do for money. I do it for the love of things.
Yeah.
And, you know, not that the government would ever do it for the love of things, but at the same time, I think there needs to be an understanding of how we all work, and I don't think they understand that.
Yeah. No. Well, mate, I hope this weather lasts, and then you'll at least have a busy summer. If people want to follow you or your businesses, where's the best place to go? Social media or website? Well,
so on website, you've got 64 degrees. .co.uk.
So everyone I ask this question has the same response where they go, shit, I don't think I know.
I don't think I know. I think
you never go on your own
my
website.
Instagram is
stalling whilst gets out phone.
Yeah, it's a beautiful
quick
day.
Look. Yeah, let's just fill in the gap.
Let me just find out. It's right here. It's Chef Michael Bremner.
Perfect.
That's
good that you used your name. That'll help you remember it.
And you got Chef 64 degrees, and you got Mama_restaurant on Instagram.
Cool. Okay. And
Facebook's
I'll find
a good one though. Facebook.
Yeah.
You go on Facebook and you always get 64 degrees and Mama, and you'll find us.
You'll find us. All right. I'll put some links on the show notes as well. So thank you so much for spending the time. It's been fascinating. Good luck. I love what you've done. Love your places. I could easily spend the rest of the day here overlooking the ocean. But good luck. I hope it all goes well. And if you do go back, I hope your fish dish wins.
Thank you.
Cheers. So there you have it. You have reached the end of another episode of the Humans of Hospitality podcast. Thank you so much for listening. Please go and visit our website, humansofhospitality.co.uk, for the show notes and extra episodes and information. And whilst you're there, don't forget to sign up for our newsletter and to receive free materials all about the humans behind our incredible industry. Lastly, if you could subscribe, rate and review this podcast, you will be massively helping me out, and it would be hugely appreciated. Thank you so much. We'll be launching another podcast in just 7 days' time. Cheers.